Hello and welcome to Retro Reviews, my channel where I review my favorite retro video games of all time as well as some modern releases I have recently finished. And today I want to look at a modern release, Nobody Saves the World from Drinkbox Studios. Now if you're not familiar with Drinkbox, they published the Guacamelee games, which were some of the best Metroidvanias I've played in a very long time. And so this one I thought was going to be something more along the same lines, but ended up being like a dungeon crawler game, which I think put me off a little bit at the beginning, but I knew the studio was so fantastic and so talented. I wanted to see what it was all about, and I saw some reviews pour in. I was really excited about it, and then I just never ended up getting it, but it happened to come to PS Plus Extra, and on my final month I decided to download it and play through it, and I had an absolute blast. So let's go through what Nobody Saves the World is. You start off as a little white amorphous blob looking dude with no memories. You have no idea what's going on, and you're just this little scrawny dude, no real abilities or anything. You happen upon a magic wand that allows you to change your form. You start off with a singular form. You can change into a rat, get into small spaces, you can deal damage. Like I said, nobody himself is really weak, but the rat ends up doing stuff like dealing poison damage and being able to fit in those small spaces. As you progress throughout the game and do the typical dungeon crawler type thing, you will be unlocking new forms, new abilities, and be able to kind of customize each form to your liking. This game really succeeds because it has so much customization. So you'll unlock things like the rat, and he'll have a signature ability like scavenge. He'll be able to get more mana, like when you pick up health items that drop on the ground, it will refill your mana gauge as well. Very helpful ability. Once you unlock other forms and get them up to a certain rank, then you can start using other people's abilities on your character. So you unlock like slots that you can have up to 4 passive abilities at the same time. So you could take Rat Scavenge and put it on another form entirely to really bolster your mana consumption every time you need to heal. There are other signature abilities, like you get like the horse form. He has horsepower. If you break inanimate objects, it recovers your mana really fast. You have other ones like a robot that does damage, like he has a steel plating, so if he gets hit, he does damage back to other enemies, so it's kind of a tit for tat thing. So you can customize each and every form, and there are a lot of forms to find in this game to kind of match your playstyle or to fulfill certain objectives for each form. So when you get like the rat, for instance, you'll have objectives like do damage with your typical attack, poison enemies. You'll unlock new abilities as you level up your character. You'll do these through your quests. So once you've finished the quests that you need to do for your character, you'll unlock more quests for them, and you'll rank them up until you can get all the way up to S rank, which is typically only unlocked via the late game. You get stuck at a certain point in the game where you can't level up your character anymore. You have to progress the story before you can unlock more like level up trees and more objectives for each character, but you can get them all the way up to S rank. And once you do, you've unlocked 4 passive ability slots and 4 main abilities. Your X ability, if you're playing on PlayStation controller, your bottom one, your A button, if you're on Xbox, that ability is going to be stagnant, something that you don't change. It's your signature attack for each and every character. The rat is just chomping. You also have like the guard, he swings his sword. The ranger shoots his bow. The muscle man like tosses a giant weight at somebody. The ghost uses like a spectral field around him. They have their signature abilities that don't change. You can't equip those to other people, but everything else can be customized. So your other 3 options can be customized for whatever you like. If you've unlocked something for the monk, for instance, you can toss that on the rat or anybody else for that matter, and you can kind of tailor your gameplay, and especially to like break enemy wards. Some enemies, especially in certain dungeons, will have a ward over their head. It'll be like a little purple icon or an orange icon or a green icon or a yellow icon, depending on the type of damage you need to deal to them to break their ward to then attack them. It's a really interesting mechanic. Some characters, like their signature attacks, only do poison damage, only do sharp damage, only do the physical damage, only do the light damage. And so you need to customize their abilities or swap forms in order to break certain enemy wards. This rewards your ingenuity. The more that you mix and match and customize, the more you understand how deep and complex this game can actually be. You also have challenge maps in something like the DLC, in the Frozen Hearth DLC, where you have to like do as many status conditions at once as you can on a single target dummy. And stuff like that is really fun, because once you learn the mechanics of the game and you start mixing and matching, you'll start to see that there are really broken combinations that you can use to get through the game. It's really enjoyable that way. The fact that you can break the game in so many fantastic ways makes experimenting with the other forms so much fun. If you're going for full completion, you'll need to get S rank on all of the characters. You'll need to unlock all the characters for the first part. Getting all the forms typically requires leveling a certain form up to a certain rank, and once you do, it unlocks a new branch in the tree. You'll unlock a new form, so like getting from the rat to the guard, you get a guard to another branch, and then it branches off into multiple branches, so you have to get those leveled up to certain ranks, culminating into the dragon, which is the last form that you unlock for the base game. He's super cool, super huge, does a lot of damage, and it takes a ton of work. It is very much a last form thing, late game thing that you unlock. You also have some bonus forms in the DLC in the form of the dinosaur, the mechanic, and the killer bee, which are fun in their own respect, but I don't think they're nearly as cool as the base game forms. I think all in all, it's something like 15 forms. I might be mistaken, but I believe that's what I remember counting them up. 15 total forms that you can take on as nobody. And it's incredibly enjoyable. Switching between these forms and completing their tasks and completing dungeons is super fun. Let's get to the dungeons themselves, because the dungeons are really interesting. They could be something from a giant gourd to a dead dragon, that you go into the belly of the dragon and you fight this all these monstrosities that live inside. Typically they have about the same objective. You try and fight through the dungeon until you get to the end, and you fight a little boss gauntlet. There's usually a boss monster that summons other little ones, and you fight them until you beat the boss down. These typically have like a level cap that you need to get into. They don't like bar you out if you don't have a high enough level, but you typically need to be at least close to the level to succeed. Otherwise, the enemies do too much damage to you and you don't do enough to them. But like I said, there are certain combos that can break the game in meaningful ways that you can kind of circumvent some of these things. Sometimes it's not enough. Level is important in this game, so making sure that you're completing quests, not just your form specific quests, but you also get side quests from the cast of quirky characters that live in this place. Your whole job is to try and fight back against the Calamity, which is threatening to take over this land that you're in. And so you're taking quests from different people in order to fight back against the Calamity. You have main dungeons that you'll go to. I talked about some side dungeons like the Dead Dragon. Those are ones that you can do optionally. But you also have the main dungeons that only can be unlocked through magic wand power that you have. You have to store up enough power. Some of these can be purchased through the shop guy that's outside every major dungeon. Some of them can be done through like leveling up your character or by completing specific quests. Once you complete quests, you get extra power for your wand, and then you can unlock the big dungeons. They typically have like a cap that you need to hit. Once you have enough, boom, you can get into the main dungeon. There are several main dungeons that are very fun. Once you get them, you get a gem shard, and getting all the gem shards together gives you the chance to go and fight the Calamity at the end of the game. The side characters and the supporting cast are really, really funny. If you know anything about Drinkbox games like Guacamelee 1 and 2, they are really hilarious. The writing is superb, and it's no different in this game. Some of the characters are just so dang funny in what they say. You'll find a guy that's like a dead knight, but he'll talk to you anyway, and he's not actually dead, but he's like posing dead. It's a weird, funny thing there. You'll find like another person outside of like a poisonous gas factory, like I think it's like a nuclear power plant, but it's emitting this toxic gas. He talks about how, like, he does this entire monologue. This is just this dude in a shack. This monologue about how, like, nuclear energy is so clean and there's so many benefits to it and these other things that actually pollute the air and everything like that. It's hilarious. Every single NPC that you find in this game has something funny and meaningful to say. There are also tons of secrets to find in this game. You'll find little mana fairies floating around. They give you just a mana upgrade. They just say, here's a free mana upgrade. You drink this little blue drink and suddenly you have more mana, which is imperative because a lot of your abilities that you equip for each and every form take up a lot of mana. So being able to bolster that is really important in the early game and even into the late game. The dungeons are fantastic. The writing's hilarious. The gameplay is really fun. Being able to switch freely between forms, like you have too many forms for the little wheel that'll give you. After you unlock a certain amount, it'll give you an option to hold down one of the bumpers and suddenly you have a wheel. You just spin it around, you pick one, and then you can go ahead. Or you can manually like pause the game through your like middle button on the PlayStation controller. I'm not sure what it'd be on the Xbox controller, and like shift over to your forms menu and pick manually the form you need, because they don't all fit on the wheel once you've unlocked enough of them, but it'll save your most recent ones and kind of get a hang of the ones that you always frequent, so it'll have those on the wheel typically, which is very nice. And you'll get the hang of switching between forms quickly as you might need to. You might need to like be hitting one and all of a sudden another enemy with a different ward comes by, you don't have the right thing for you, so you switch over to like the strongman or the ghost or the rogue or something like that. It's really enjoyable, and the more that you play the game, the more you get the hang of the mechanics, the more fun it is. I really enjoyed Nobody Saves the World. I think Drinkbox knocked it out of the park. I typically don't gravitate toward games like this. I don't play dungeon crawlers, but this game was just so enjoyable. I had a phenomenal time. So I'm going to give Nobody Saves the World a platinum rank. I will say as well that this game has some really fun twists and turns. The story is actually meaningful and cool. So I would really highly encourage you to go check it out. It's been on sale for really cheap. Go check it out if you are interested at all. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.